Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Panenka podcast, the first episode of the weekly Waffle, where we basically just talk about what has happened in football over the past week, main points that have happened. So this will be out every Monday evening around that time, the start of the week, so you can just get a week better catch up on what's happened in the previous week. So today, for the first episode, I'm joined by Harvey, Ashlee, and Callum. And the biggest point I'd say is Timo Werner. According to a number of sources, Chelsea have been linked with him. Apparently, they've agreed a £54 million fee after triggering his release clause. Callum, what do you make of that move?
It's a big move for Chelsea, and it shows a state of intention of that they still want to challenge, that they don't just want to rely on this young core. It is really interesting because, of course, we saw earlier on that they signed Hakim Ziyech, and the very strong rumours from multiple sources that have proven to be very strong sources of Ben Chilwell joining for about 55 million too. So, but going into more Timo Werner, currently, or from what we last looked at, I believe he had 24 goals and 7 assists, 31 goal contributions. He's been towards the top scoring charts of the Bundesliga. And I think it would be really helpful for this young, energetic Chelsea team, a really quick striker who can get in behind, can probably beat any centre-back in the league easily, one-on-one. And he's proven he has great finishing ability. He's got that good. He just knows sort of where the goalkeeper's going. He's shown an ability to just place the ball well. So if he's getting placement from Ziyech, who I believe is, to be honest, the best player outside of the European top 5 leagues, I think this could be a real statement of intent for Chelsea, and we could honestly see Chelsea maybe contending for the title next year if everything can glue right for them. Because of course Marcos Alonso seemed to be a bit more of a weak point this year, replacing that with Ben Chilwell. It looks like they're going to play Mount and Ziyech together, which is, Ziyech and Mount, both very creative players. It's going to be very helpful for the future of the club. And they're also all very young. So hopefully they can move on. We can see some big improvement from Chelsea this year, as they've shown that they can drop a few games, and maybe this is what they will need to help them. So Timo Werner for 54 million, I'd say that's a bargain on Chelsea's part.
Okay, so obviously Timo Werner will be coming in to replace Tammy Abraham, but Tammy Abraham has got 13 goals this season, so he's done quite well. But actually, how significant of an upgrade do you think Timo Werner will be to Tammy Abraham?
Yeah, well, I think he's going to be a huge upgrade for Chelsea, to be honest. Timo Werner is a player that creates and scores goals. He's got 1.5 key passes a game this season. He's got 1.8 dribbles, so he can just run at defenders and get past them easy. And also his goal contributions is his worst season for Leipzig was 21 goal contributions, which just shows how high his standards are, to be quite honest. In the UCL this season, he's also had 7 appearances, 4 goals and 2 assists, which is absolutely mental for a Leipzig striker. But yeah, I think it's going to be a huge upgrade for Chelsea. He's a creator, he's a goal scorer, and I think it's just going to be a huge upgrade.
Now, right, okay. So on that point, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with her that it would be a wise upgrade. Obviously, any club to get a hold of Timo Werner this season or for the next few years is investing right, because he's proved that he's been good in front of goal. He's helped the team with his passes and his assists and whatnot. However, with what Frank is trying to do at Chelsea, I'm of the belief that he should be given more time to build this young team that he's got. The start of the season, we saw Mason Mount, we saw Tammy Abraham, both pretty much contribute to every single goal that Chelsea had scored for the first few weeks. Unfortunately, Abraham did suffer an injury at the start of the season, but from what we saw of him, he was competing early on with the big dogs of the Premier League, like Aguero and Vardy and whatnot. The guys that will score sort of 25 goals a season. He was up there with them, sort of neck and neck. Chelsea didn't have a great start this year, and we saw them lose to Man United a couple of times. We saw a few results that weren't necessarily that convincing. But given that Frank Lampard was new at the time, and that he brought in a new sort of coaching style, the way that he wanted to bring the team forward, I think he should be able to have the time to bring the best in the youth players out. We see players like Reece James and is it Amori at centre back? Tomori, sorry. These are both players that are showing a lot of promise. Sorry. The same with Mount and the same with Abraham. We saw Abraham at Swansea a couple of seasons ago in the Championship. He was one of the key players there. He's come and stepped up and stepped up to what Chelsea have asked of him when he's been given the chance to. Timo Werner, and we sort of in the past we've seen this quite a lot with big players in other leagues coming to the Premier League and not fitting in. Now, I'm not saying by any stretch this always happens, because we saw Aguero come from La Liga into the Premier League, now one of the best forwards we've ever seen. But then again, to counter that, you've seen sort of players like Di Maria, where in his prime at Real Madrid, he was one of the best forwards the team's ever seen. He moved to Man United. We didn't see the same sort of player. He hated his time in England. So maybe that's up for a bit of discussion whether or not he'll settle in. I'm personally of the belief that Tammy Abraham should keep his spot in the team, or if they do end up signing him, they play both of them at the same time. I'm not sure whether if they would play off one another well or not, but I do believe that Tammy Abraham should be given the time to prove himself more at Chelsea, definitely.
Speaking of RB Leipzig, they played on Saturday in the Bundesliga as it's heating up as we near the end of the season. Leipzig managed to drop 2 points in the title race to Paderborn, who are bottom, after they were 1-0 up. Deo Upamecano, the centre-back, was sent off before half-time, and then Paderborn centre-back Strodier on the 92nd minute equaliser. Bayern managed to get a 4-2 win away at Champions League.
What is that?
Speaking of RB Leipzig, they dropped 2 points this weekend in a game against Paderborn. After going 1-0 up, they managed to concede a 92nd minute equaliser to bottom of the league. Paderborn to drop 2 points as the Bundesliga nears its end. Bayern are 2 points away from the title now after managing to beat Champions League, chasing Leverkusen 4-2. Dortmund managed to get a 1-0 win over Hertha Berlin, and Mönchengladbach lost on Friday night 1-0 to Freiburg. So, Gaffer, you watched the Leipzig game. What do you think of it?
It was really strange because it looked like, typical RB Leipzig at first. Patrick Schick, the former Roma striker, was able to get a goal in the 27th minute, I believe. Yeah, that is correct. But then Upamecano got himself a red card in the 43rd minute, and it just seemed to change after that. Paderborn, to be honest, after that dominated the statistics, 12 shots, 4 on targets compared to Leipzig's 9 and 3. 54% of the possession, 9 corners compared to their 7. So this is a really good result for Paderborn, who are bottom of the league, and of course are looking for any type of points they can get. And with other teams like Frankfurt dropping points to Mainz, they're hoping that maybe they can crawl up the table a little bit, especially with such a big game like this, and able to get that just end of the game goal to get them the 1 point. But besides that, yeah, it looked Paderborn putting a strong performance, and if they keep putting in performances like this, they may even pull off a miracle and survive. But speaking of Bundesliga games, Ashlee, if I'm correct, you watched the Leverkusen Bayern game. What was your opinions on that?
Yeah, so going into the game, I wasn't really expecting much from Leverkusen because they were a Leverkusen team without Kai Havertz. The first 20 minutes, though, they were dominant. Bayern just didn't look like themselves at all. But then after 20 minutes, Bayern just clicked, scored 4 goals, 3 goals before half-time and then 1 after half-time. When they had it was the possession was 52-48 in favour of Bayern, but when Bayern did have the ball, they used it so well and so intelligently. I think Gnabry's goal, the third one, it was just a through ball over the top, and he dinged it over the keeper. It was just so simple for Bayern, and it showed how clinical Bayern were. 16 shots to Bayern, 10 to Leverkusen. Leverkusen committed 14 fouls in this game compared to Bayern's 5, which it shows how hard Bayern had to break down and how hard they had to deal with. But yeah, I know Harvey watched the Dortmund game. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm on that topic. I think I speak for everybody when we say we are tired of seeing Bayern Munich dominate the Bundesliga. I did watch the Dortmund game, and to be honest, I wasn't impressed with anything I saw. They dominated the game. They had most of the shots, most possession. You know, it looked like a textbook game for them, but they couldn't finish the dinner. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. We saw the 1-0 win came early on in the second half, I believe. Emre Can, the goal scorer. We saw numerous chances squandered. You know, I think it was Jadon Sancho put the ball wide from 5 yards out after Hakimi had set it back for him, I think, or it might have been Guerrero, sorry. But if we are wanting to see a team win the Bundesliga in the next, let's say, 10 years, that isn't Bayern Munich, these sort of performances are not making me feel any better about being Dortmund. We said before, if anybody listened to the Bundesliga podcast, which should have done, you know, I think the next team that are going to win the Bundesliga that isn't Bayern is Leipzig. They were made in 2009, as Gaffer said in that same podcast. You know, they had the Red Bull money, but they invested well. They've risen in German football so well. Dortmund have almost been at this level for so long now, where will we see them drop off into like a mid-table sort of team that fights for Europa League? Will we see them push for the title? I don't think we will see them push for the title. Bayern Munich seem to have this grip on the league that's just absolutely ridiculous. And when you have a player like Jadon Sancho in that Dortmund team that misses from 5 yards out, you know, it doesn't fill you with confidence. Now, on the topic of Jadon Sancho, we saw him pay for the most expensive haircut over the weekend. He was fined £10,000 for having a barber who lives in a separate house come into his house and cut his hair. We saw his haircut before. It didn't look very nice. He had a really sort of stubbly beard, overgrown hair. It was needed, but maybe not at this expense. He was fined £10,000, and I've read up on the BBC report that says he is outraged, and he calls it an absolute joke that he's been fined. Now, obviously, he has gone against Germany's lockdown rules of having another person come to your house and be within 2 meters of you. I can't say I back him on this one because obviously this is a global problem, and he's sort of thrown it in the bin for a haircut, and I think he does sort of believe this. He does deserve this 10,000 fine, but yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter.
So speaking of Borussia Dortmund's only goal scorer in that game, Emre Can, he has come out and called, as I look here, Emre has called Jadon Sancho, saying he needs a little guidance. He calls him a great boy and that he's easy to get on with off the pitch, but he just tells it straight. He has to be a little smarter. Everyone needs a hairdresser, but also everyone needs to grow up. You know, literally, he can't afford to make mistakes like this in the future because you can't afford to be spending 10 grand on a haircut, even if you're making footballer money. But it's just like, even that he comes out and, Emre Can, I think he handled this really well, saying we as a team was responsible. We should, maybe set a bit of a better example to him. But, maybe with someone like Emre Can, someone with, that Premier League experience, a talented player in his own right coming out and, leading Sancho towards the right path, maybe that will help, show things up in the future for Jadon Sancho.
Speaking of one of the leagues Emre Can used to play in, the Premier League is back. It is back next Wednesday on the 17th of June, kicking off with Manchester City at home to Arsenal and Aston Villa at home to Sheffield United, with the Merseyside derby being one of the key fixtures on Sunday, the 21st of June. And then the Championship is also returning. So, Ashlee, what do you think of the fixtures that are coming up for the rest of the season? Who's got the best run in? Who's got the worst?
Yeah, so as a United fan, I'm quite happy with the remaining fixtures because United statistically have the easiest run-in, but United, it won't be the easiest run-in. We have teams like Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Southampton, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Norwich and Brighton. While Bournemouth have actually the hardest with United, Spurs, Leicester and Wolves. So as a United fan, I'm quite happy with the fixtures we've got left. So it'd be really interesting to see if we can actually push Chelsea for that top 4 spot. I'm hoping that we can just pip them for that. But yeah, Harvey, I know you you're looking forward to this West Ham United fixture. So,
on the topic of hardest fixtures, I'd like to say that West Ham have got it quite tricky. We've got Wolves up first at home. We've got Spurs away afterwards, only 3 days afterwards. We've got a week rest, and then we've got Chelsea at home. That's not a kind sort of return to football for a team that's fighting relegation. I've always prided myself in the fact that West Ham are a Premier League club. I literally last week bought a kit for this season, the West Ham top with the badge that said Premier League, and all the guys are saying, that is the last one that you'll buy. Do you know what it might be? I don't feel safe where we are. We're tied. We're tied 17. We're tied on points. Sorry, with 18th, 17th, 16th. Bournemouth, and is it Watford as well, guys? You know if it's Watford as well at the bottom.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Yeah, Watford. Yeah, this might sound biased coming from a West Ham fan, and a lot of other people would say this about their clubs that are struggling, but I do believe that West Ham have the ability to stay in the Premier League. Until only a couple of seasons ago, I was convinced that we were a top half of the table team. I thought, Europe could even be on the cards after our Payet season. Obviously, that didn't go too well afterwards because he left and he doesn't like the club anymore. But in general, I'm not overly optimistic, to be realistic, about our survival chances. If we were to go down into the Championship, I know we'd struggle because typically in history, we see teams that do get relegated, they lose their biggest players. They want to play in the richest, the biggest league in the world, being the Premier League. Not to take that away from the Championship or anything, but the Premier League does hold that mantle over every other league in the world as being the top dog. I think we'd see the departures of players like Anderson and Diop, Balbuena, Lanzini. Fabianski's getting on now, but even he might go elsewhere. We do however play Chelsea on the 1st of July, only a couple of weeks before we play Man United. Gaffer, what are you making of the remaining fixtures in the Premier League?
I'm an Everton fan, so as you can probably see by the shirt, but I'm in the middle with us because before the Chelsea game we had the second best form in the league, and so obviously at first it's against Liverpool. It happens every time. We're going to get absolutely smashed. I mean, if we win, then that's probably a good. If to be brutally honest, if we beat Liverpool, I could see us beating Norwich, beating Leicester, maybe drawing with Spurs, beating Southampton, drawing with Wolves, beating Villa, maybe even beating Sheffield at their stadium and beating Bournemouth. We have a few easy games like Norwich away. People might be like, "Oh, that's a bit different." We should beat Norwich away, to be completely honest. With the form we're on, we have a world-class manager. He has 3 Champions Leagues. We should be able to beat Norwich. Liverpool is obviously the hard. Leicester's quite. I feel like we can beat Leicester at Goodison. If it was at, I believe it's called the King Power. That's Leicester Stadium. If it was at the King Power, maybe a different story. But then we have Spurs 3 days later. But I'm so iffy about Spurs right now. The way they it's not a Mourinho defense. It seems shambolic, to the point where he's had to pull a 20-year-old out of the academy. It's Jose Mourinho. When does Mourinho ever use academy players? That is kind of how you know he's in a situation. So, I could see us going on a good run of form here and maybe able to squeeze 7 for 6. Because say we had such a poor start. And if we can end up stealing 7 for 6 after starting off in 14th, I'm ending the season happy and with hopes for the future. But the only league that, not the only league, but another league that is coming back along with the Premier League is the Championship. And we have Lewis, our resident Championship expert. What do you think about the Championship fixtures, Lewis?
I think it's good. I'm glad the Championship's coming back, obviously, with the Premier League coming back. It's coming back on the same weekend, starting on the 20th of June. I think the Championship is going to be really good. It's going to be a really good end to it, obviously, with Leeds and West Brom pitching up near the top. Leeds wanted to go up after such a long time being outside of the Premiership. Personally, I think for Reading, obviously, for my club, I think like we might be able to push for playoffs, but I highly doubt it. We'd have to go on a very good run, but we're very good on fitness. We've got very high fitness levels at the moment. Apparently, we're playing quite well. I think Championship is ready to come back. We've had, I think, the last test. Obviously, the Premier League's test came out today. We were recording on the 7th of June. That they had 0 infections. 1,195 people, I think. Whereas Championship last had one a couple of days ago, and we had 9 people infected, including Preston striker Jadon Sancho. However, I think with the Championship, obviously, there's more teams. I don't know. I feel like we can come back. Obviously, it's coming back for the money side of it. I know Sky are looking at airing some of the games off the Premier League. The priority is there's going to be so many games in such a short period of time. But I think the Championship is going to be quite good at the ending of this season, and I think it will do quite well. So that, I believe, is going to be the end of the first weekly waffle. Please do, if you did enjoy listening to this podcast or video, wherever you're listening, on Spotify or on YouTube, please like down below and subscribe as well. Also comment down below what you think of the situations that we've spoken about today. And we'll be back later on this week with another episode. I believe it is the best current Prem 11 of all time, which will be on coming out later out this week. So just keep an eye out for that. Make sure to follow our Twitter, on Instagram, follow us on Spotify. All the links will be down below. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.